Good morning and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. This morning, we are starting off our conversations by chatting with Ms. Kaye Trotman, who is one of the executive members of the IDA. And this morning, we are talking a bit about what's happening with the new airport security issues. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Shenell. Good morning to the viewing public, and thank you guys for having me this morning.
Excellent. Now, if persons were able to tune in to that press conference that you had yesterday, they would have seen that you went into great details regarding your or some of the IDA's security concerns for that new terminal of the the airport. Can you please give those persons who were unable to view that press conference somewhat of an overview of some of those security issues that have been highlighted?
Okay, sure. I think one of the things that we are quite mindful of is the fact that our airport is positioned very close to the residential area here in the Crown Point, Bonaccord vicinity. And with the homes so closely lined up to the airport, one of the significant concerns was for unintended intrusions into the compound of the airport. And how is that going to be dealt with? I think when we have international airports, there are standards with regards to proximity to residential location, but being as it may, we are a small island. We now need to be very mindful of how the security issues for an international airport comes into play. And while it is, we are grateful for an international airport that is likely to boost our connectivity with the rest of the world, we also have to be concerned with how do we ensure that we maintain the security features. And therefore, one of the looming questions that's in the mind of most people to ensure that there's no unintended intrusions because someone playing in a yard so close to the airport, cricket, for example, the ball can get into the compound. How do we ensure that that doesn't happen? Is there likely to be any further acquisition of lands to ensure that security issues are taken care of? And God forbid, that is something that I think Tobagonians and especially the residents in this area do not want to go through again, given what happened before. Also, you're looking at the fact that we're in the proximity of the airport or parts of the terminal building so close to the public road, so much so that it seems as if the roof of the building is hanging over the sidewalk. How does that play up itself in terms of security? The buffer between the main road and the compound seems to be minimal. Is that going to be addressed as well? And if I am to be, let me say, if I'm to know the sighting of some of the activities happening behind the airport itself, I think where that roof seems to be overhanging is where some of the planes may be in a little distance from that, may be parked on the tarmac. Is that going to create any issues? Even the access roads to the airport, the narrow Storby local road for an international airport that is likely to be high traffic, there is concern as to whether that road itself can take on the heavy traffic flow that is likely to happen. And would that also be an area that we're looking at further forced acquisitions to widen or redesign that road to ensure we have adequate traffic flow patterns going into and out of the airport? So those are some of the concerns that we believe needed to be addressed that we're not hearing anything on.
And there are persons who are saying, okay, well, the airport is just about to be reopened. Why bring these things up now? What can be done at this late stage? How do you respond to those persons?
It's not a matter of why bring these things up. Why weren't they thought of before? We have been waiting to see if some of these issues would have been taken into consideration. I dare say that the folks who are to be dealing with the construction of the airport and its plan and organizing that those should have been things that were considered beforehand. And if they are not considered now, then what do we need to consider them? Are we saying that because it is due to open, we are going to allow the oversight of these things to happen, and then when something happens, we then wonder? It's our concern.
Understood. And one of the things that you brought up as well had to do with economic opportunities for Tobagonians. Tell us about some of those concerns. You spoke about the fact that none of the RFPs went out for duty-free shops.
In fact, we were asking. We did not hear of RFPs going out for duty free. So we were wondering if they have gone out at all. Are they likely to go out? What would be the process that would be put in place to ensure that economic activity happens in Tobago, but that Tobago businesses benefit? We see the airport having the potential to not just be an international airport, that you have a physical structure, but what is the economic impact it can have on the Tobago economy? And are we positioning ourselves to take advantage of that? And that is why we were calling on the THA to have the foresight to ensure that Tobago businesses are prepared, and not just as individual businesses, but as the island and as the private sector and as even the public sector, that we are poised as an island to take advantage of whatever economic activities the airport can generate, so that as an island we see positive impact. Can't have a building in our space, and the only people that benefit from it may not necessarily be impacting the Tobago economy specifically, but that all that generation of income finds an outflow out of the economy. Then that's what is the sense in having an international airport or having that monument in the space if it doesn't impact positively on the economy of Tobago itself?
Excellent. And one of the things that you also indicated was the role of the THA in this advocacy, as well as the role of the two Tobago representatives in the parliament.
Yes.
Please, highlight these things as you did yesterday.
The thing is, as leaders in the economy, part of the responsibility of leadership is to ensure that the island itself benefits from any development that happens, and that developments that are planned for Tobago, it really does do what it is meant to do. So a development like the airport is not to be seen as a development that is viewed from a partisan political lens. It should be seen from the lens of how does this impact Tobago as a whole, and therefore the various representatives at the different levels, from the THA to the parliamentary representative, should be in sync with how this particular development brings economic activity, benefits to the people of Tobago, to the island of Tobago, and positions it in a positive light when national development is concerned. And that is why we believe there should have been some synergy between the various leaderships at the various levels for Tobago to ensure that the airport does bring that kind of benefit into the island that we all want it to bring.
So, and what are you advising as it relates to that level of advocacy from the THA? Because you hear a number of persons saying, well, the THA is not responsible for the airport. So how do you suggest that advocacy is done?
Even though the THA is not responsible for the airport, businesses coming into the space, there is room, I believe, for the THA to engage in negotiations and discussions with the airport authority to see what is possible. Can we get and negotiate for a certain degree of spaces being allocated to Tobago, and then for those RFPs to come out specifically targeting Tobago businesses to ensure a level of equity in the placement of businesses within that airport compound. The thing is, and commerce will happen on the airport. We on this side of the divide of the nation, needs to ensure that degree of fairness for business opportunities to come to Tobago. We can't just throw our hands up in the air and say because we're not responsible, there's not room for discussion. There's always room for discussion. The end of the day, we need to ensure that business and development happens in a manner that just doesn't benefit Tobago alone. It benefits the national arena, and Tobago is part of the national arena. So there is room for the THA as a leadership on the island to engage with the Port Authority in discussing the possibilities and what can happen for generating business in Tobago
And what
from
type of
that area.
conversations do you think should be happening with the banks as well? Because a number of these businesses would require significant backing from the bank, loan support. Even for some of the smaller boats, when you look at the RFP that went out, it requires a letter from the bank stating that that person is in good financial standing to be able to move ahead with the business, whether it be to reconstruct the space or to outfit the space. Sorry. So, what role do you think the bank should be playing in this conversation regarding opportunities for Tobagonians at the airport?
And that is why a coordinated approach needed to happen. It should not just be what the banks are planning to do. Yes, they have their role to play. It should be a coordinated effort. Remember, we need to take the island of Tobago into a particular direction of prosperity. Therefore, all the major stakeholders, from the private sector entities, the banking sector, the THA as the public sector leadership on the island, need to be engaged in that sort of multi-stakeholder meeting that says these are the economic possibilities for Tobago coming out of this project. How can Tobago as an island take advantage of that? And from each stakeholder bringing its perspective into it, we have more of a comprehensive and a holistic approach as to how Tobago needs to take advantage of that. From the banks themselves, creating the various financing packages that can bring assistance to the the potential business owners who are going to go into those space, to the THA itself establishing a unit that prepares the sector for taking advantage of the commercial activities and opportunities that will come out of that. Remember, we cannot just in an environment like Tobago with its various unique challenges and nuances, we cannot hope it just happens organically. There is the need for deliberate planning, deliberate guidance, deliberate, for want of a better word, maneuvering to ensure that full advantage is taken of the opportunity. So each stakeholder has its part to play, but we cannot play that individually in silo efforts. It must be a joint sort of responsibility that takes the island as a whole and not just individual businesses, the island as a whole in a collective to benefit from that. So that's where the sum of the parts come together to make a whole that goes in a particular direction.
Understood. And what role is the IDA currently playing in this advocacy that is needed for that airport,
Well,
that new airport?
part of the role we are playing is what is bringing the issues to light as we are doing on this program and even at our press conference. The other part that we are likely to take, it's our intention to at least send out a letter to the respective stakeholders indicating our recommendations for consideration. So we are to pen a letter to the various stakeholders, be they the chief secretary, the prime minister, even the representatives, to at least share with them our concerns and recommendations.
Excellent. Well, we want to thank you so much for your time this morning. We're going to take a quick break right here and we'll be back right after this. So see you soon.